Hey Snow,
Hey, MJ.
how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm all right. I mean, we didn't do a podcast last week because both of us have COVID, which I think you fared better than I did.
Yeah, probably. I didn't. I just had weird stuff going on. I mean, it wouldn't last. I'd wake up with a sore throat. Then, like 2 hours later, it was like I never had a sore throat. It was weird. Just weird.
Really quickly to start, uh, fuck COVID. Both of us were down, and I don't know if it was my high blood pressure which kicked my ass more than you did, because we were both fully vaxxed and we had the booster and everything. But it's no joke. It felt like shit. But anyway, I found out yesterday that I lost another friend to COVID.
Shit.
Yeah, he had health issues. He was overweight. He had a heart attack in the last couple years and stuff like that. But yeah, so I guess this is the second one that I've lost that I've known personally, and lost another person to cancer, and fuck cancer too.
Yeah, fuck cancer.
And we know some other people that are dealing with that right now. Close friends of the show and personally, and so fuck that. So I reached out to a doctor that I know, someone that I introduced Chef Shannon to. Dr. Steve, he does a show on Sirius XM 103 called Weird Medicine, and he also does a podcast, Weird Medicine, which you can follow on all podcast platforms. So I thought I reached out to him. I did a cameo because I wanted him to earn a few bucks and to give us some advice. So let's see if I can bring that up and see what he has to say. And so we actually have a doctor on the podcast for a change. Okay, so let's see if I can bring this up.
You could have just emailed me. People do that all the time, and I answer those questions for free. But thank you for having me do a cameo. And I appreciate you being a listener for many years and for introducing us to Chef Shannon. But you've had COVID. Me too. It sucked.
It sucks.
The CDC recommendations went down to 5 days because 10 days was overkill, and I think they bowed to a little bit of political pressure because it was a huge loss of productivity to have people out for 10 days. I know in our health system, I think every one of my nurse practitioners and me have eventually contracted COVID. Even with full PPE, it just happens. And, our risk is a lot higher because we're exposed to it every single day. And in the community, you may go days and days and days without being exposed to anybody that's got it. But anyway, when someone's out 10 days, that could be 2 full weeks if their first day is on a Wednesday. And really, you're contagious just before you get symptoms, which is tricky. And you are contagious for the first couple of days. Once your symptoms subside, you're not really a danger to anybody anymore. So what the CDC is now saying is isolate for 5 days if you're asymptomatic and afebrile. In other words, if you had a very mild syndrome, then wear a mask whenever you're around anybody for the next 5 days. And then if you can go to work, that's between you and your work. Critical people can go right back to work. Emergency personnel and stuff like that. It just depends on your company. So they're going to have their own policy. They may not want you around until you've done the full 10 days. That's up to you. Now, monoclonal therapy, you asked about that. Monoclonal therapy is basically antibodies against the virus. So it's your body's making antibodies but it does it slowly. It starts off with 1 or 2 plasma cells producing antibodies, and they'll churn them out, but then they'll start dividing and making more and more and more, but it takes time. This way you can get a whole load of antibodies all at once. And I had Delta, and so I got the RegenCove, which is Regeneron's monoclonal antibody cocktail. It had 2 different antibodies in it. And I was better in a day. I mean, literally went from being hit by a Mack truck to being totally normal in 24 hours. So monoclonal antibody therapy is great. The problem is Omicron is completely resistant to the RegenCove antibodies. And the one from Eli Lilly, too, I can never remember its name. So we've got Sotrovimab, but it's in very short supply. So they're only giving that to people who are at high risk of going to the hospital. People with diabetes, the obese, people with immunocompromised states, chemotherapy, HIV, that kind of stuff. So now there is another antibody that you can take if you're at high risk and you haven't been exposed. That's called Evusheld, and that can be given only to people who have not been exposed but are at high risk, and it prevents you from getting COVID-19. At least prevents you with all the variants that we have in the environment right now. That's another antibody. And then, so if you can't get the Sotrovimab, but you want something, what can you get? Well, Molnupiravir, it's only 30% good at keeping people out of the hospital, but it's pretty good at reversing mild disease in the home. So if you've got symptoms, you could take some Molnupiravir, you start feeling better pretty quickly. It's sort of like Tamiflu for the influenza. It's very similar in that regard. Then there is the Paxlovid. Paxlovid is 2 pills that you take every day, and it's 2 different drugs. One potentiates the other one. And the problem with it is if you've got any liver issues, cirrhosis, any kind of liver failure, it's not indicated for those folks, so, or it can cause more problems. So the Molnupiravir is certainly better tolerated, but it's not as effective. The Paxlovid is about 90%. The next option that you have is to get Remdesivir as an infusion in the outpatient setting. So people who are at risk of going to the hospital can go get 3-day infusion of Remdesivir and not go to the hospital because it's 90% effective against all the variants. In the hospital, when someone's critically ill and we give it to them, it kind of works. It's helped a lot of people, but it wasn't the panacea we hoped it was. But that was because we were looking at people who were already critically ill, and they finally did the study on people in the outpatient setting, and it's marvelously effective. So that's an option as well. So I hope you feel better. I'm assuming you're in a low-risk group because you did a 7-day deadline on my Cameo. Thank you very much. And anyway, and good luck with Reality Redemption. Here's a slug for you. You're listening to Reality Redemption with Michael Johnson.
Say some name.
Now, let me do that again. You're listening to Reality Redemption, the podcast with Michael Johnson, wherever podcasts are found. Something like that. You can cut that out. If you want me to do a real one, let me know. Anyway, feel better. Take care. Thanks for listening.
Oh, well, yeah, thank you, Dr. Steve, for that.
Dr. Steve?
Weird Medicine on 66103. And after that, we found out that you had COVID a few days later. And he also sent me an email and said, best wishes to you, too. When you recover.
Thanks, Dr. Steve.
Did you feel the symptoms coming on? Because I felt like I had a fever. I was kind of like a scratchy throat, and then later in the day I felt a fever. And I initially took one of the home tests that you can get on USPS.com. And it turned out negative, but I didn't trust it. So I went to a local testing site, and then I got the test, and that was positive. And then I took a second home test, and that was positive. Did you feel the symptoms coming on before you?
Yeah, I felt like something was wrong. Like right away, I was like, I felt really dizzy when I first, like, dizzy and then tired, and then it would do like the weird symptoms where it was like everything would last for like a couple hours, and then it would move on to something else, and I'd have a new symptom, and that would last for a few hours. It was just weird.
Yeah, but you're feeling better now.
Oh yeah, I feel back to normal now.
But like I was still testing positive through those home tests, like
Yeah,
10, 12 days later.
Positive. I still tested positive too, but like I feel normal. Like, okay, that's weird that it's still showing up as positive. Like, I don't know.
How long are you gonna set out work for?
I think I can go back tomorrow. I'm gonna call him in the morning. I'm pretty sure I can go back.
I went back a week ago tomorrow, but I went back too early, and I felt like crap. And so I was out another day, and then I went back on Wednesday. And I've been back since. And I finally tested negative 2 days ago.
Oh, cool. So you're done with it. You beat COVID.
Yeah. The one thing that we missed, we were supposed to watch the 49ers play last weekend. And bastards were winning the whole game, and they blew it at the end.
Damn it.
So now it's going to be the Rams and the Bengals.
Yeah.
Bengals in the Super Bowl. I'm going to root for the Bengals because it's the year of the Tiger. And,
oh, yeah, that's a good point.
And I don't know if I don't know. I don't dislike the Rams, but I don't know.
Yeah, like, I don't really care who wins, honestly. I'm like, it should go to whoever plays the best game, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that how it work out anyways?
You know the shitty thing though is a year ago today actually I was in Tampa with my friend Charity and watched the Super Bowl there, and Tom Brady's 7th Super Bowl, and Tom Brady retired this week.
Yeah. Are you sad?
Yeah, bummed. Tom Brady was my man. He was a GOAT.
No, you love Tom Brady.
Yeah. If I was gay and I had one choice, Tom Brady, but not like Tom Brady's gay because he has Giselle. But hey, at least you warmed up to Tom Brady over the last few years because you didn't like him before.
Well, yeah, but I did like when he said I was like, oh, Tom Brady's not so bad. After he was like saying had a question about his wife, and he was like telling the interviewer, it's hard to win an interview with my wife. I'm like, Tom Brady's not that bad, I guess. I always thought that he was like, I don't know.
Well, he's 7-time Super Bowl champion. He owns every record, passing record now for an NFL quarterback. It's going to be weird after 22 years of not having him in the NFL.
Yeah, well, he's got all of his records, though. He's hard to beat. I mean, he's going to be real tough to beat for somebody else that comes along.
And at least he's going out on top of his game. I mean, he had like an MVP season this year. So, yay. Congrats, Tom. One thing, reach one more topic before we get out of here, but it's become a weekly occurrence that we do a Super Bowl, we do a podcast, and we get off the podcast and you turn on the news, you find out somebody died. This week it was Howard Hessman with Johnny Fever.
And head of the class.
Head of the class, too. I had totally forgotten that one until you brought it up to me.
I liked both of those shows.
I think that's maybe another reason why I'm going for the Bengals, because WKRP in Cincinnati,
I used to love watching that on Nick at Night, like watching all the repeats.
Yeah, the best episode ever, best sitcom episode ever was the turkey one, the Thanksgiving Day, and the turkey drop.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that we did go through, oh, well, I didn't go through it, but we were talking, you know, over the last 2 weeks since we did the last podcast was the whole Joe Rogan thing, speaking of COVID. And he had some guests on who were, he had was one guy that was predominant in coming up with the formula for the vaccine. Is it the mRNA, something like that?
Yeah, the mRNA.
mRNA. Okay,
We talked about that.
this guy kind of helped develop that, but this guy also was on there and he was critical of the vaccine. Now,
Right.
let's preface this before we say anything. I think you and I benefited from the vaccine. We've been advocates for the vaccine and the booster shot.
Yep.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with having a discussion on a podcast platform that maybe goes against that, because it's just a conversation. I know it's a tricky thing with misinformation and all that shit. Now, while saying that we believe in the vaccine, I also believe in and I support Joe Rogan for having a discussion about the other side and, oh, why is the government pushing this, and all these conspiracy theories that can go through. But I think that the conversations are important, and for everybody to consult a doctor, because we're not scientists. We're not doctors, but there's nothing wrong with that, and trying to censor that is wrong, or trying to cancel that. But at the same time, if Neil Young or Joni Mitchell or Crosby, Stills and Nash want to pull their music off of Spotify, well, that's cool too.
Right. Yeah, both things are okay.
Yeah, and if you are the type of person that Joe Rogan is influencing you not to get the vaccine over your doctor, then that says something about your mental capability yourself.
Yeah, you have bigger problems in life.
Yeah. And this goes into the whole Dave Chappelle thing too of, what is comedy, what's not comedy. I think it's dangerous to censor any of that. Now, also we're saying this because we're on Spotify. And we support Spotify because most of our listeners listen to us through Spotify. So we don't want to ruin any business chances we have in the future with Spotify. Right?
Right. Spotify, if you're listening.
Yeah. And at the same time, Howard Stern came out and he had said on his show that he was against what Rogan had said, or having these guests on spreading this quote unquote misinformation. But he supported his right to do it. Now, what the media did was they said, well, Howard Stern goes against Joe Rogan. So one of our local county supervisors, I won't name the name, but she, I'll just say that.
Oh, God. I know what it is now.
Okay. She had said that Howard Stern, of all people, is trying to censor Joe Rogan. And I got into a little Facebook tiff with her because I was like, no, that's not what he had said.
And she's a lunatic, so...
Yeah. She thinks like Facebook is trying to shadow ban her. Do you know what that is?
I do not. It doesn't surprise me.
Basically, what that is Facebook isn't pulling her posts off, but they're trying to make it so she's not seen. Now,
Okay.
being a county supervisor in Mount Mojave County, you're not going to be widespread. Your message isn't going to get out there to the message to the masses.
You're small time, babe.
Yeah.
You're small time.
But to the same point of, to our friends on one side, we can say on the left, they didn't. I don't think they listened to that episode of Joe Rogan, and I thought that was an interesting episode. I actually sat down and listened to it. Did I agree with it?
I did too. It was a long episode.
Yeah,
it was like 3 hours long, but yeah, I listened to it too.
Yeah. And I listened to the Howard Stern episode where he criticized Joe Rogan, and at no point did Howard Stern call for the canceling of Joe Rogan. He didn't. He supported his right to say it, even though he disagreed with what he said. And I think that's an important message to everybody with all this cancel culture or what you're posting. Actually sit down and listen to what they're saying. And
people have a real problem with listening nowadays. Yeah. It's like they just don't do it anymore. Yeah. They just would rather them talk.
My mom had posted something about she didn't like the latest episode of Real Time with Bill Maher. And because she said it was really negative, and I watched it and I didn't get negative. He was critical of the left like he usually is, but it wasn't negative. He had plenty of good jokes in there.
And what is so wrong with critiquing things? Like, why is that a bad thing now? Like, you're not allowed to critique anything?
No. And
that's what we live for. That's why we have discussions and whatnot.
And I think we have bigger issues with what's going to happen in the next election and how they want to change secretaries of states to, maybe overturn the results of elections than what a Joe Rogan, who's not a good actor. He's a good podcaster. He gets high and he talks about aliens a lot. We have more problems than Joe Rogan and more things that we need to focus on.
That's right.
And, getting over this fucking never-ending COVID bullshit. But at least I think you and I have, superpowers now. Because,
I hope so.
Because we're fully vaxxed, boosted. Now we have it. Can you imagine, because I think I had it worse than you, could you imagine how bad it would be if we didn't have it? The booster and the vaccine shit.
Yeah, I'm glad. I think that's why mine was so mild, quite honestly. It's because of having the vaccine.
Yeah. So hopefully next week we can get back into a regular thing and get back into our, normal podcast and not do it over the phone and all this other weird shit. We had done this entire episode a few days ago and then realized that because I was trying to record it over my phone that it didn't come out. It was just horrible.
Yeah, it's a learning curve.
Yeah. So, if Spotify wants to offer us a contract so we can build a studio so we can do this, that would be awesome.
Take it.
But at the same time, if you want to, and many of our listeners have canceled Spotify, that's fine too. Fine, great, more power to you. If you don't believe in the company, that's your right too. But you can also hear us on Pandora, which is owned by SiriusXM. So we both support the Joe Rogan podcast, and we support the Howard Stern Show on SiriusXM, Pandora, Spotify, Apple, Facebook podcasts, which we shouldn't do because we shouldn't give that plug because of Mark Zuckerberg.
Sucks.
Did you hear how much they lost 20% of their market share the other day? on Facebook.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm trying to remember why fucking we're going off-roading here, and that's why I wasn't prepared to talk about Mark Zuckerberg. Their stocks dropped. They lost like billions of dollars the other day in stock, but he's got billions, you know. All right, well, I guess we'll wrap this one up. Another short one. We'll get back into this more long form once we're both feeling better here, and maybe before the Super Bowl next week. You know,
yeah,
but
it'll be good to get back.
Yeah, but fuck cancer, fuck COVID,
fuck COVID,
and fuck cancel culture.
and fuck cancel culture.
Yeah. Okay, Snow. Well, we'll wrap it up, and I will talk to you later. Well, no, stay on the phone, but we'll wrap up the podcast.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.
All right. Bye, y'all.